a lot of attention focused on a new president coming to town, but you have a pretty interesting job at the moment yourself, managing a sometimes dysfunctional family here in the Senate. You mentioned Senator McCain. I want to move on to one of his sidekicks on the campaign trail was Senator Lieberman, who is an independent but a member of your Democratic family when it comes to voting in the Senate. Many of your Democratic members flatly think he's a traitor for not only his support of John McCain, but for the things he said critical of Barack Obama. And they want him gone. You have proposed he lose his premier committee, Homeland Security, and take a lesser committee, Veteran Affairs or something else. Why not just say, sorry, Joe, you're not welcome here anymore?
Well, John, whoever gave you this information is wrong, because he's not on the Veterans Committee. I couldn't offer him that if I wanted to. But let me just say this about Joe Lieberman. I know Joe Lieberman very well. He's a senior member of the Senate. He is on armed services. If something happens to the chairman, he becomes chairman. If something happens to the chairman of the Environment Public Works Committee, he becomes chairman. So he's a senior member, a person right here. And I want to remind all of the people that are watching this newscast, or however this program is going to air, that I would not be majority leader but for his vote. We could not have passed our budget. We passed a budget the Republicans couldn't pass one. They had 55 senators. We had 51. They couldn't pass a budget. We did. Why? Joe Lieberman voted with us. So I recognize what he did was wrong, and quite frankly, I didn't like what he did. I told him so all during the campaign. But the caucus has a decision to make, and they're going to make it. I'm not going to make the decision. Whether we're going to say, okay, we've had enough of you, Joe, go vote with the Republicans, or whether we're going to try to work something out with Joe Lieberman and say, Joe, we don't like what you did, and here's what we propose we're going to do. So we've had a number of conversations. We're going to have more. But for those people beating up on Joe Lieberman, I've done my share. Recognize the glass being half full, not half empty.
He's chairman of the committee now, the Homeland Security Committee, which has a lot to do with the safety of Americans here. You mentioned armed services. He said this at the Republican convention. He highlighted John McCain's service, and he criticized those who, quote, wanted to retreat in defeat from the field of battle, which would have been a disaster for the United States when colleagues like Barack Obama were voting to cut off funding for troops on the battlefield. Senator Obama is about to be President Obama, about to be the commander-in-chief. Do you want a man who said he's not ready to be commander-in-chief, nowhere close to be the chairman of a committee in the Democratic Senate?
Joe Lieberman told me yesterday, we got a big job to do. I'm going to do everything I can to help Barack Obama.
Does he owe him an apology?
Oh, I don't know. You know, this is not a high school deal where you say, okay, you embarrassed me in front of my girlfriend, therefore you apologize.
But you made peace with Senator McCain. Should they do something like that?
Maybe they already have. I think a lot of this is very private stuff, but Joe Lieberman has done something that I think was improper, wrong, and I'd like, if we weren't on television, I'd use a stronger word of describing what he did. But Joe Lieberman votes with me a lot more than a lot of my senators. He didn't support us on military stuff, and he didn't support us on the Iraq stuff. But you look at his record, it's pretty good. He comes from one of the most liberal states in the country. Joe Lieberman is not some right-wing nutcase. Joe Lieberman is one of the most progressive people ever to come from the state of Connecticut.
Mr. Leader, thank you for your time.